Amidst all the ruckus, the tomfoolery, and dare I say the balderdash we all face in today's day and age, it's natural from time to find yourself yearning for a simpler time. When the most stressful situation you could imagine was a pop quiz in Miss Dungelschmork's class, and the only tax evasion you concerned yourself with was changing the channel when you were tired of watching The Power of Juju on Nickelodeon. Now, unfortunately for me, I can't turn back time, nor am I able to avoid my taxes, as far as the government is aware at least, but one thing I can do is find Castle Crashers on sale for like $3, perform a world record speedrun of the Steam checkout menu, download the game in like 30 seconds because god, remember when a whole ass game was under 200 megabytes? Open up the game, double back to Steam after I realized the Pink Knight is DLC because it's only an extra $2, which is a small price to pay for my pride as a man of class, and finally, prepare for my socks to be blown clean off. And you know what? You should too, because whether you're an old fan or a new one, you're about to discover why Castle Crashers is a game that you should pick up or revisit ASAP. But before we get to that, quick little aside here, hi there, editor weird man speaking. So I just wanted to say real quick that I actually wrote, recorded, and edited most of this video like 2 years ago, and you can actually see that in some of the footage. But with that in mind, you can imagine my surprise when I found that less than a week before I intended to upload this video 2 years after making it, that the Behemoth would announce their first Castle Crashers DLC drop in 12 years. So I just wanted to say that outside of right here, right now, I'm not going to be covering the DLC, but I wanted to bring it up because, yeah, that's incredibly exciting. You should go support that, and if you take anything away from this video, it's that you should play this game, and now you have even more reason to play it because there's a DLC coming out. So go play the DLC and enjoy the rest of the video. Okay, bye. So let's take this process step by step and start with the concept that every good game needs. So for those of you who have never heard of this game before, Castle Crashers is a side-scrolling fantasy beat-em-up released in 2008 by the Behemoth, a company co-founded by 3 dudes, one of which being Tom Fulp, aka the guy who created Newgrounds, aka the website you go to for Flash animations or games that are guaranteed to be either the most offensive shit you have ever and will ever see in your lifetime, or just a genuinely well-done and entertaining piece of content featuring your favorite video game character doing something that is likely both silly and goofy. And to that effect, while the plot of this game is extremely simple, 4 princesses and an ambiguous power crystal have been stolen, you're a knight that loves kicking ass and tongue-boxing princesses, go save the day, what makes this game so perennially charming isn't its riveting plot-driven dialogue, nor its gut-wrenching character backstories, because we don't get any of that. For all I know, you take that helmet off, you're getting greeted by the fucking Hamburglar. No, what makes this game so persistently delightful is the fact that it knows exactly what it is, and it never once takes itself too seriously, or even really just seriously, at all. This is the kind of game where you can claim a slobbering, armless velociraptor as your steed, battle such daunting opponents as Bush with legs, bipedal canine capitalist, or just a guy doing his laundry, and escape the clutches of a massive homicidal cat riding a deer propelled entirely by its own shit. And that's all in like the first 20 minutes. So to put it briefly, this game is a ride the likes of which would make the Tower of Terror puke its little brains out. The art style? Goofy as hell. Character and map design? Like J.R.R. Tolkien had a weird love child with Hanna-Barbera's wacky races. The gags and funny ha-has still hold up, so long as you're like me and your sense of humor hasn't evolved since age 12 when the only thing funnier than fart jokes was literally anyone just saying the word boner. And by the way, side note, in the midst of all of this, I would be remiss not to bring up one of the #1 signifiers of pristine game vibes, and that's the absolutely top-tier soundtrack, consistently going harder than it has any right to throughout your journey as an ever-present melodic reminder of your powerful, badass, gooberific accolades. And honestly, this soundtrack is so good that I was tempted to make a whole section about it, but also I know next to nothing about music theory, so that would probably just result in 3 to 5 minutes of me saying, this song, guess what? Pretty good. And how about this song? You know what? Also good. So I decided to just mention it here because even though I have the music-based analytical skills of a tone-deaf toddler, this game has a score that is very much worthy of praise. And speaking of praiseworthy, let's move on to the next shining pillar of this game's success, one that I guarantee you will not find in a great deal of other similar games. Now, I know this sounds like an obvious point to make when you're talking about video games, which are in fact made to be played and enjoyed, but like genre-based preferences aside, whether a game is straight up infested with bugs and glitches, has the most offensively janked up camera movement or character controls you've ever seen, or just becomes stale after a good 2 or 3 hour joyride, minus the joy, after playing through enough stinkers, you'll come to realize that a video game being genuinely fun to play is in no way a guarantee. Fortunately though, for you the viewer and also for my cortisol levels, Castle Crashers has a a very solid understanding of just what makes a game fun and how to implement these concepts in their levels. For example, being a beat 'em up, a game like Castle Crashers could easily become unenjoyable and stagnant by way of a linear combat system, an uninteresting or minimally interactive playing field, or enemies that over time just become predictable to the point where you get those crackhead streamers putting on blindfolds and speedrunning the game using solely audio cues, controller vibrations, and smell-o-vision to beat it. But Castle Crashers doesn't do any of this. In fact, it does quite the opposite. Just to name some examples, this game has things like a point-based stat allocating system that allows you to spec into different features and abilities as you level up. You've also got items that allow you to switch up your approach, like boomerangs that stun opponents, bombs that you can drop behind you to blast assailants on your tail, or sandwiches that literally just turn you into a walking Chad meme for like 10 seconds. Then, of course, there's the dozens of enemy AI, including numerous bosses, all with different playstyles and elemental resistances and damage types that force you to use your little chimp-like gamer brain to overcome their forces. And finally, of course, there's the heavily interactive maps like rivers where you struggle to avoid floundering through the raging rapids by clambering onto the nearest buoyant object you can find, industrial factories fortified with electricity barriers, extra spiky bone-crushing pistons, and actual poison guns, or desert kingdoms filled with sinkholes, buried treasures, and locals who prefer to settle their disputes on the volleyball court rather than the battlefield. Basically, with its constantly evolving mechanics, countless enemies that continually develop their strategies alongside you, and a set of stages that always seem to keep you on your toes, not to mention the fact that once you beat the game with a character, you then unlock insane mode with that character, which is just the same campaign but with even harder enemies, and the fact that this game is multiplayer, meaning that you can also partake in the absolute lunacy of this game with up to 4 people at once, which, by the way, don't even get me started on the PvP to see who gets to kiss the princess. Those are some of the most intense friendship-ending conflicts I've ever partaken in. But point being, this is the kind of game where if you play the first half hour and think, yeah, okay, this is pretty fun, you're gonna end up hooked to your screen until you've beaten that final boss, and you're gonna love every minute of it. Like, seriously, I asked my friends, none of which usually play or enjoy side-scroller beat-em-ups, to play this game with me so I could get multiplayer footage for this video, and then they just ended up wanting to buy the game so we could keep playing together online. That said, I also think the fact that I had several characters unlocked that my friends noted as having, quote, butthole faces had a lot to do with their interest in the game, so who knows, results may vary. While we're on the topic though, and yes, I am going to use buttholes to transition into my next point, this brings up a fantastic argument for what I believe is the third and final aspect of what makes this game so incredibly enjoyable. In this life, everyone has their vice that they just can't shake off. For some, it's drinking. For others, perhaps gambling. But for me, it's that fat fucking dopamine hit I get when unlocking something new in a video game. And if any of you out there are like me and you're just itching for a good fix, then boy do I have some good news for you. And it rhymes with Castle Crashers. So this game has 3 main unlockables. The first of them is weapons. Typically they're swords, sometimes they're random objects like pitchforks or umbrellas, other times you're just wielding a duck. Anyway, they basically help to boost your stats, with some of them even occasionally providing you with extra types of damage on top of that. The second set of collectibles are the pet companions. Super tiny, super spherical, basically little floating anthropomorphized stress balls that grant their wielders certain stat buffs or abilities to aid them along the way. And then, finally, you have the dozens of unlockable characters that you get throughout the game. Some of them have new types of magic, and they all start with their own character-specific weapons that you may or may not have already unlocked throughout the game. But, like, let's be real here, functionally speaking, every character is basically just the same guy with a fresh coat of paint over him. But whether these collectibles are the most make-it-or-break-it integral part of your run, or they just go entirely untouched from the second they're unlocked, that doesn't really matter, because that's not the point of collectibles. Collectibles aren't made for the purpose of maximizing DPS or leveling up your characters as quickly as possible. Well, I guess these ones are literally made for exactly that purpose. But no, collectibles are made for the purpose of collecting, so that one day, once you've unlocked everything, you can open up this game, scroll through your full roster of characters, travel to the blacksmith hub level, run arguably too willingly into the mouth of that giant frog where your full set of weapons is stored, then hop right next door to that patent very much already taken Littlest Pet Shop, take a little tour through your whole ass zoo full of pet companions, and then sit back, arms crossed, fingers interlaced, and take pride in the fact that you did that. Keeping in mind, of course, that you could have spent that time doing something else like going outside or maintaining meaningful relationships, but you instead chose to do this, and god damn it, you did it well. And fortunately, for those of you who can't get enough of that digital collector's high, Castle Crashers not only has an abundance of unlockable content, but it also does a great job of making it actually fun to collect. For example, when it comes to the weapons and pets, there are just so many ways to unlock them. You can buy them in shops, you can dig them up from the ground, you can find them in totally random places, like behind foreground objects, destructible walls, or hovering over the corpse of their previous owner, and sometimes you'll just straight up find them, like, on the ground, and you can just take them, which is definitely both a safety hazard and theft, but that's neither here nor there. Point is, they're everywhere, and oftentimes, especially when considering that many of the tools you need to unlock these things are given to you far later in the game, you'll find it's gonna take you way more than a single run through of this game in order to collect them all. Which is incredibly convenient, because while you will find yourself unlocking a good deal of characters naturally as you complete levels, arena challenges, and then replay levels in insane difficulty, a solid majority of the characters in this game are unlocked by beating the game with other characters.
And I know you might hear that and think, well, holy cannoli, dude, that means I have to beat the game a minimum of 2 times.
If I have a full party of 4 and play through a large portion of the levels on insane mode and beat all of the single player arenas to unlock all of the characters, isn't that kind of excessive? And to that I say, well, yes. But this does also give you a lot of time to collect those other items, and for those of you like myself who more than anything love just going back and taking the campaign for a spin every so often, it gives you plenty of new characters to re-experience this game with. Because at the end of the day, I played this game back when it first came out, and I've picked it up and put it down several times since. In all of this time, I've never completed the game, but also, I'm in no rush. And in fact, knowing that I have a game that I can come back to that isn't fully completed makes it all the more exciting for me to come back and experience this timeless classic again and again. And honestly, I tried to make a pretty comprehensive overview of this game, but like, I didn't even get into stuff like Back Off Barbarian, or how fucking impossible it is to 1v1 these roided up slabs of hate meat, or so many of the neat little details that make this game so fun and so unlike any game you have ever and will ever play. So with that, I will leave you to discover those fun little details for yourself. If you do end up playing or replaying this game, do let me know what you thought of it in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Like and subscribe, yada yada. Okay, bye.